Hello, hello, hello. You already know what time it is. Two
Uh,
caps, no cap.
yes,
Yo.
sir.
Mm-hmm. I'm Wesley the actor, ATM Cash Out. Got my co-host right here.
You know who it is, Adam Melville, aka Irate Specialist. We out here doing what we do, talking, trying to change the world.
Little by little, because that's all we can do.
hmm
Obviously, we just want to say these are just our opinions.
hmm
And obviously you can take them any way you want to take them. But
hmm
ultimately, the choice is yours.
Have your own experience.
Exactly. We're just speaking from our own experience, and hopefully, our experience can inspire you to be the best person that you could possibly be. That's all
hmm
that really boils down to. So,
100%.
oh yeah. So today we're going to be talking about how to be the order to the chaos. And there was something that I was thinking about before. Like most people don't really see problems. If they did, if they had the means to fix the problems, they would. But they don't see the problems, so that why would they want to fix something they can't see? See, the reason why we see the problems in our life, the reason why we see the problems around us, is because we're supposed to fix these problems. But the thing is, these problems, this is the thing, are not on the outside; they're on the inside. These are our problems inside our internal body. And this is the thing: if you want to fix these problems, be the doctor of your life. So yeah, I just want to open with that.
hmm Facts. Yeah. Doctor of your life. That reminds me of this podcast that I was listening to recently, and they were talking about. Yeah, he was talking about the brain. And it's very interesting to listen to neurologists speak on like the brain and like the function of like how much power that your mind really holds. And they came to the topic of like self-healing, and which is basically healing through intention. And basically the guy was talking about like that's kind of what he does in his practice, like understanding his understanding of the mind has been able to help him to heal others who as long as they're willing to
Yes.
take that step and excuse me, believe in the treatment, like because it really boils down to belief. And but you were saying doctor of like your own universe or whatever. I don't remember you.
Even just your own simple life.
Yeah, doctor of your own life. That's
you
we could
know.
start right there.
Yeah.
And that kind of reminded me of the self-healing, because it's just like, you're powerful enough to heal yourself. That's what the
hmm
placebo effect is, you know, if you know anything about that, when
Can you tell us
you
a little bit more about what that is?
yeah, I got it. When you because So studies have been done on, different types of drugs and stuff like that, and often they'll use like when they do the trials, they'll have like a control group, a placebo group, which is like the medicine. They people think they're taking the medicine, but it's not really the medicine. It's just like a sugar pill or something. And then the actual people who take the new medicine, whatever. And oftentimes, people in the placebo group can heal without taking the medicine, just because of the belief that they're taking the medicine alone. And that's basically the placebo is acting as like, oh yeah, I could channel my belief into this pill. But when you remove that, you realize that it's it's in your mind that's really creating whatever healing it is, you know,
hmm
because that actually triggered what I was trying to say about the doctor guy. He was saying it, think of it from this perspective: every part of your body has its own consciousness. Because if you look at it, and you understand that we are all energy, which we are, and we're all fractalizations of the universe. And if you know anything about fractals, I definitely suggest that you go watch Inner World, Outer Worlds if you don't know about fractals. But that's a great series. But if you know anything about fractals, every piece of the fractal you can zoom into and it'll contain the whole image of the fractal, you know? So as fractalizations of the universe, we
Mm.
contain the whole universe within ourselves.
Okay. Wait, hold on. I'm gonna add him in.
All right, word. Oh, we got a special guest coming in.
Oh yeah.
But wait, let me just finish this thought. So as we are fractalizations of the universe,
Mm-hmm.
each part of our bodies is also a fractalization of the universe carrying that universal consciousness. So
Mm-hmm.
you can talk to parts of your body which are feeling, stiff or you know, uh loose, and you could, like he was saying, like you could try it, like, put your arm back, see how far back it'll go, and then like say, I love you, I love you, I love you, and then see how far back. Like I that shit really just worked,
Yeah.
like you can see it, like if
Mm-hmm.
you apply love as opposed to applying like lower vibrational uh emotions or energies, we could just
Mm-hmm.
say. So yeah, it's just is very powerful. And going back to the whole thing being the doctor of your life, applying higher vibrational energy, higher vibrational mindsets, higher vibrational thoughts will help you to move further into a higher vibration. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So what's
Mm-hmm.
good, Bryce? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. Glad that I could tap in with y'all podcast, of course. Definitely was handling a few work related endeavors before this, but I'm definitely excited to share, months of knowledge that I've been working on, things that I've been sitting on, and just bless the public, bless the people, with knowledge, wisdom, understanding, as always.
100,
That's what it's
100.
all about, bro. That's what it's all about. Yeah,
You know what I
man.
mean? But can y'all give me a rundown of what y'all already talked about? Just
Yeah,
so I
well,
don't, like hit them with the same thing.
Oh yeah.
we just
So
started,
yeah,
but
basically
Well,
we just at the beginning. Yeah. Yeah. We
nah,
still on the first topic.
got you, man.
Oh
Got you,
yeah.
got you.
Oh yeah.
No,
So
I
yeah.
mean, but yeah. But for me, I mean, just even picking up of what we talking about with fractalization, just when it comes to understanding the universe and understanding, ordering chaos, I think the main thing for me is understanding that at a certain level, there's no more higher or lower vibration. There just is,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that even when we think about concepts within our 3D reality, as it relates to higher and lower, superior and inferior, all of that essentially stands from polarity
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and opposites.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe beyond this third dimension, beyond what we can physically see, exists a realm where there's infinite possibilities. And within infinity and infinite abundance is the only true equality.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have to be superior or inferior to any man. I'm just infinite. I just am.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I think that for me, that's really what I focus on, when as it relates to, raising my vibration. How do I become infinite? How do I create infinite in everything that I see? And at the same time, give it shape, give it geometry, give it structure, give it a face, give it a vertex, So for me, those are all things, all things that I consider and think about, as it relates to, just raising my vibration. And even with the theme of this, putting order in chaos, like chaos in and of itself is without shape.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Like if without order, right? Chaos in and of itself has no shape. It just expands on forever, right? It's just space where anything can happen, right? Entropy. But the opposite of entropy is entropy, right? The order that it creates. So it creates a shape. That's what gives it purpose. That's what gives, right? The journey that we go through. Take that. The journey that we go through, it's given purpose because each. Oh, it's on the floor. Yeah, that's crazy, right? But even when you consider the chaos that we go through, right, and you just take it to a pure human level, and you think about how chaos manifests for the individual, when you think about how does problematic and seemingly unrelated bad events relate to the overall arc of a person's life, without order and sequence, without patterning, and without shape and geometry, you would just experience endless suffering.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And there would be no purpose. And that's what hell is to me, right? Like when we talk about navigating these different realms and dimensions, when we talk about why do we experience these things that we experience, and why do our people experience these things that we experience? Because the realm that we exist in possesses the possibility for endless suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And without God to give that structure, without God to say, you know what, I'm going to allow you to go through poverty for 10 years and then I'm going to make you a millionaire, right? Or I'm going to allow you to be homeless for this period of time, but then I'm going to give you a skill set like trading. I'm going to teach you how to build your wealth, and now you've built an empire.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Only with order does chaos have purpose. But those who exist outside of the order and chaos are those who have the ability to exist in hell, right? This realm of endless suffering. So that's how I relate to this concept, that we're talking about today. This is order within events that
And
seemingly that are seemingly unrelated.
yeah, I just want to touch on the suffering part real quick because I was learning about suffering this year, and I come to realize due to I got into tarot and stuff like that, so learning the element of air. Suffering is something that we cause upon ourselves, literally, because there's no doubt that we experience pain, but suffering comes from when we pile on top of that pain our own judgments on what we believe is the cause of the pain, or like you can't really see like that pain, eventually those 10 years of poverty are going to lead you to that $1 billion. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just in the 10 years of poverty. And that's because I feel like we don't often have foresight. I don't know mental myopia. 19 keys taught me that term, but it's basically like when your mind is only stuck in like short term vision, like it's you can only see for up to a short amount of distance out, and you can't see like the big picture, you know what I'm saying? So like that's what I feel like that's where I feel suffering comes from, because when you see it from that bigger perspective, when you see it like I'm in this poverty right now, but I don't always have to be here. I could take this opportunity and make it into $1 billion. You don't, and you're just in the suffering, you're in the poverty, then you're just in it. Then you're causing yourself more suffering because of the pain that's inflicted on you, which is really an opportunity for you to grow. But
Man, no, that was very powerful, and vision is interesting, like you think what you perceive through these two physical eyes is real, you know, and you're not even aware that the eyes aren't even what registers what you see.
Mm.
You know, but to the uninitiated, right, to those who can't see, they're not using cognition and sight in alignment. You know, they're not using or tapping into essentially the vibration that will allow them to transcend the poverty all at once, right? Because where you're really trying to get to it's not the million, it's not the billion, you know, like it's not the house you live in, it's not the car that you drive, you know, it's not who you're around, it's who you are. You know what I mean? Like, this reality is consciousness based. It responds to your level of consciousness, not your ability. You could train your body to become the most physically gifted fighter and the physically gifted athlete you could be. Without consciousness, without connection, all of that would be worthless, and you would still be stuck in poverty despite the fact you know you're a genius. Despite the fact that you know you're not crazy, you know that your intuition is right, you know that you know how to sense these things, but you're not conscious of it on that level, you know, and that's why your reality isn't responding the way that you think it is. That's why there is endless suffering. But there's order in the chaos, you know what I mean? Like, even if you just look back at 2020 in and of itself, right, a year where people talk about like was one of their worst. I bet if you think about where you're at right now in space time and you go back, trace yourself back to where you were in January, you're the person you needed to be back then now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you had to go through those things. There was an order to what you were going through.
Mm-hmm. This, I honestly just like, because we're in December now, the year is practically over.
Exactly.
This has been one of the most transformative years of my life, you know, for if nothing else, the fact that I was able to focus on my mindset, you know, I was able to understand from a different perspective and observe different perspectives and see that, you know, my perspective isn't always necessarily true. You know,
Right.
it may be what I'm feeling in the moment, but that's not always equated to truth, you know.
It isn't, you
So
know,
just
and it's like,
getting out of that and seeing things like, you know, yeah, I'm here, but where can I be? Asking a question, you know, thinking in questions change like it's crazy. I'd say 2020 could possibly might be one of the best years of my life. Like, you know, even
yo, for
all the
being
shit
honest.
I went through, like,
Like, for being
I'm
honest.
saying that it was easy at all because it was very difficult. Trash, bro, at sometimes, but like,
Yeah.
the knowledge that I gained is just enough to make it all worth it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's crazy because we all went to college, but what did they really teach us there?
You know, listen, we talking about trading, we talking about college, yo, knowledge of self, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about it like this. If y'all remember, you know, and for those of you listening, you know, like, obviously talking about Ramapo College, you know, between the years 2017, 2019, 2020. You know, if you think about college in and of itself, right? There are people who in that ecosystem were a top dog.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They lived within their own cipher, and that specific cipher and that specific ecosystem. They created an ego and an image of themselves that was suitable for that moment. Right?
Mm.
They believe they got knowledge, but they were really taught falsehood, right? And they built their build upon falsehood.
Mm.
And what happened when they entered that build into another cipher, right?
Crash.
The person, yeah, it crashed. You know, they went down, right? Sell, bearish momentum. You know what I mean? Like, right? Like everything in terms of space, geometry, and trading, right? Bearish momentum. Why? Because you entered the market with a build that wasn't necessarily aligned with where everything else was going. The emotion and the energy there caused a crash because it wasn't built on truth, you know, and things rise that are based on truth. That's why Bitcoin is going up to 20K and you're watching the dollar fall in the same breath, right? And you think about it, it's funny how time changes and things change, because at one point in time, within the environment and within the ecosystem, we were these beings. And now at a completely different point in space-time, after going through the necessary chaos and getting the knowledge, now we're in a completely different space, completely different people, you know? And to answer the question, what is college really teaching? And is it suitable, or does it even, are they even teaching with the intent of our end goal and what we can be, like Adam said? You know, like, are these systems and mechanics that are even working towards the individual interests of the student, the man or the woman who's trying to become their highest version of themselves? Is it suitable? You know, like, and is it working in the same direction? Because I would tell you that for the majority of young Black men, right, indigenous peoples, you know, Moors, if you will, you know, people from Africa, people from the Caribbean, people from America, is this a system that doesn't come from us, doesn't come from our people or our ancestors, and wasn't necessarily established in this country with the intent of teaching Africans, right? Like with the intent of teaching indigenous peoples? The answer is no, right? Because now we know that we can be all that we can be. We could be millionaires, that we could develop a skill set and become the wealthiest versions of ourselves. But at one point in time, we were operating without consciousness of that.
Yeah.
At one point in yeah. Like at one point in time, we were operating without consciousness. And our reality was responding based upon that. But what happened? We went through experiences and we got knowledge that allowed other doors to be open. And when we walked through those doors, we got more knowledge, despite the fact that we had to go through more chaos, right? And ultimately, there's a gatekeeper. And that's what the college is. When you really think about it, like there's a system of gatekeepers within the society that we exist in. And all of these people hold the knowledge that they know can change the lives of Africans, of indigenous people, of Black people who have been suffering generational trauma and slavery for 500 to 6,000 years. And despite that, they're going to put you in a college course, in a college class, and teach you these skill sets that they know are not going to generate you income. But you need the income to pay the debt that I needed to get in the classroom in the first place, right? And now I have to go into debt to get a job, right? To pay off the debt. But in order to do that, I need a space to live. And to live, I need utilities and different things that I have to spend more money on. Now I'm choosing between paying off the debt for school and paying off the debt you have to go into to take care of living expenses, which are a natural thing.
And the whole time, the people who put you into debt are the ones who are paying you to help you pay off the debt.
Exactly. And you don't even know, and you can't even imagine, right? You don't even think about the fact that the person that's orchestrating, the architect behind all of this, if you had the knowledge he had, you would become an architect too. You would become a builder too.
Because they learned it from us. They learned it from the black man.
Exactly. You know, and it's like, now you're running my own game on me. Now you got me in a college classroom learning from somebody that's teaching me my own science.
Mm.
That shit we're given for free.
Yeah. You know, like this, you were born with this. And because of the society and ecosystem that we exist in within capitalism, now whole generations suffer in impoverished communities and backgrounds, preventing, you know, people to rise, redlining, right? Forcing people to live in certain spaces, I'm not giving you the business loan so that you can create the LLC, S corporation, trademark, and then build your business, buy your real estate, and become the richest man in your family. I'm not going to give you a loan to go do that, but I'll give you a loan to create debt so that you have to work out of it and then pay that back while simultaneously paying other debt.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a never-ending cycle of paying somebody back. And now you were the black graduate that went to school and got your doctorate, but you never generated any generational wealth because you spent your whole time paying off debt. And now your children are looking at you when it comes to moving on in your life, and you don't have that, you know, because you were forced into that situation. And because you're forced into that situation, because that's where the architect and that's where the builder placed you, and that's, you know, that's who's organizing all of this. It's like the 48 laws of power says, you're playing the cards that are dealt to you. But somebody's controlling the options, which means what? There are other possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that there's other possibilities means that with more consciousness, those doors could be open to you. But it's not going to happen if you yourself are not in a state of consciousness that allows you to be receptive to that. If your antenna is not attuned to the frequency, you'll never pick up on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I feel like higher vibrational beings and societies, like, they stay away from Earth because we on some low vibrational shit.
Yeah.
Maybe if we were on some more advanced shit like our ancestors, they would enter into our space. We would be open to that shit. But we're not even aligning ourselves with the vibration of the lifestyle that allows us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's why we experience what we experience.
Mm-hmm.
This conversation is so synchronistic because literally before I jumped on this call, I was having a conversation with my cousin about this same shit. Like, 'cause she's in college right now, and she's just like, this does not feel like something that I should be spending my time on right now, when I know that there's different ways that I can make an actual income instead of, you know, going getting this degree that I don't even really want to use when I graduate with it, you know? And I'm just like, I feel you. I feel you. Like, you know?
Crazy. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
And just to add to that, I feel this vibrational frequency of unconditional love is coming to this universe, but that love is manifest through us, though. It's manifest through the
yes.
individuals who are able to see the light and realize, well, I realize that it's not just a dualistic perspective of my two eyes.
mm-hmm.
You know, it's the actual reality that I've already been blessed with. The true peace reality. And
Yes.
and it's coming though, but we have to let it manifest in us. You know, obviously, you know, all we could do is all we could do, but like once we realize that unconditional love within us, we're able to give that to somebody else. And that manifests obviously in different forms, not just in giving that person money or giving that person resources, but probably just giving that person the time and letting that person know, like, hey, you know, I care enough about you to just come over and be like, yo, what's up? Just giving you a call. You know what I mean? And it could be something that simple because the person that you was picking up the phone to call could be in the process of, in their mind, stuck with the lock on the key with no key. But that phone call just helped them to realize, yo, it's all right. You know, it's okay. The circumstance around them doesn't actually exist because somebody loves you enough to call you. Somebody loves you enough to think about you in a time where you weren't even able to think about yourself.
You know, and it's deep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's as deep as it gets. Like, oof.
Yeah, man.
And it's interesting. It's interesting too. You know, like when you talk about right, like integration of true peace, true love. You know, fifth dimension. You know, like when we speak about these topics, it's interesting to think about how the vibration of the collective affects the vibration of the ecosystem in and of itself, and those are one and the same.
Yeah. Because we're all
You know?
connected. You know.
Exactly.
How can one not affect the other? And that it takes me back to the podcast that I was listening to, because one thing that they've done in science for a long time, generations, is split the body up into different pieces. You know, separate the head from, you know, what's going on in the gut, and the gut what's going on in the head, and the heart from what's going on, you know, in other places, and try to look at it from different pieces. But you're a whole body. Your whole body is working together at all times. So if you look at it from a dissected point of view, you're not going to be able to heal the whole, heal the root of the issue. You're only going to be able to treat the symptoms, because that's only you're looking at. You're looking at the affected area, and you're not looking at the whole thing. Like, okay, the hand is connected to the arm. Maybe if you rotate the arm in a different way, then you won't have that problem in your hand anymore. And you know, it's like, that's how. So if we can like take from that and look at it and just zoom out and just see, like you're saying, the vibrational energy that we're in right now, that the collective is in right now, especially this year, is so steeped in fear, you know? So why it makes sense that all this dramatic stuff is happening, all this stuff that we can't really, you know, we say that we can't really wrap our minds around, but you know, it's where our minds are really in tune to. We just don't want to look at it clearly for what it is. You know, like, and that's the issue. That's the issue.
Yeah, man. Because
That's
it's
finding order in the chaos, you know, looking at the whole instead of the part.
Oh man,
some real stuff right there.
Very powerful stuff.
Some real stuff. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
For sure. You know.
Oh yeah.
But now, for me, like, what other ways do you guys interpret that, though? You know, like order and chaos. Like, how else do you guys? What's another metaphor for that?
Yeah, Wes.
You want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was mentioning it a little bit earlier, but it's sort of like we're the peace almost. And I mentioned this in the beginning, but I'm gonna mention it again. But you know, we are the only people that see the problems in this world. You know, not everyone's going to be able to see a problem at all. If they had the means to fix the problems, they would. But because they don't see the value in providing a solution to the problem that you see, you're the person that is the problem solver. And I feel like these are some of the reasons why we're here. We're here to solve the problems, and not necessarily the problems of this world, but the problems within ourselves. And as we grow to learn how to do this, now obviously everybody does it different ways, but ultimately, the way that I try my best to heal myself is through that process of unconditional love, but breathing in that unconditional love. Because I equate, and I say this all the time, but I equate like unconditional love to breathing, because we have no control over if our next breath will happen. And because of that, it's to a love that's way greater than ourselves. Like it's like it's massive compared to who we are. Like we're a dot in unconditional love. I'll put it like that. Like if unconditional love was blood, we will be a drop of blood. Because it's so much. It's so much of it. And it's crazy, but like every person can fit in unconditional love. There's no I hate you in unconditional love. There's only I love you in unconditional love. And who doesn't like to be loved? Not in a form of like like intimacy like that, but more like in the sense of I love you enough to be around you. You know, I love you enough to be a person because, you know, you're a person just like I am. You have a heart beating just like I do.
Yeah.
You know, so
Wow.
hmm
Yeah, I just want to touch on that unconditional love perspective real quick because I was tapped into this like 5D conference earlier this year. And they were talking about, one of the doctors was talking about how you know, we are all unconditional love. But the reason why we're here right now is to experience life. Because when we're in this sea ocean, like you were saying, like the blood of unconditional love, if we're all like in that ocean of blood, there's no differentiation. It's just unconditional love, you know. So when we come down here, when we come down to this physical realm, we're meant to experience, and I kind of see it, I always see it as like a prism, like the light of the unconditional love showing out, and then we're the you know, rainbow reflection of
Mm.
that light, you know. And that's what gives us emotions, that's what gives us fear, joy, sadness, happiness, whatever, because those emotions are all just a different vibration, a different shade of the unconditional love. And we're here to experience all of it. We're here to experience all of it. And knowing that we are connected to that unconditional love is what helps us to channel it and see it as just like, yeah, I'm just here to experience this pain right now and not judge it. You know, I'm here to experience this happiness right now and, you know that this is not going to last forever. I'm here to experience this life and, you know, be a guide for others and still, you know, harness that unconditional love, bring that unconditional love down through me so that others can see that not only are they, you know, that pain, that sadness, that happiness, that joy, but they're also that unconditional love. You know, it's everything. It's everything,
Mm.
you know? Yeah.
You know, definitely, man. Everything is everything, and everything is love. And I think that, you know, God is the Lord of the worlds, and it's interesting how our worlds and the experiences that we have within these different expressions of unconditional love is almost like learning the different levels of ourselves at the same time, you know, because you
Exactly.
can think about it in terms of the chakras in the body. You know, all of those are unconditional love or infinite energy, right? Love is the highest vibration, and if you have unconditional love, you have unlimited abundance, and
Mhm.
it never ends. You know, because unconditional love never ends, and therefore you can never die.
Yes, sir.
You know, because you always choose life, and unconditional love grows from mastering love with condition, right? Because you have to master both realms, the finite and the infinite. And you wouldn't be able to perceive what unconditional love is until you had first mastered first what is conditional love, right? What does it mean to be loved by somebody when it's based upon condition? You know, what does it mean to love somebody when it's based upon You know, like you have to be this, that, and this in order for me to love you, you know, right? Like, or you're dealing with, you know, a partner and they like you, you know, but only when you do this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
If I just gave you unconditional love right off the bat, you wouldn't be able to appreciate that. It's the fact that you went through, you know, Sally, who only gave you attention when you wore this, this, and this. But, you know, like when you just woke up first thing in the morning, she didn't want to chill with you. She'd rather go be with Brad, or she'd rather go be with, you know, Travis. She'd rather go be with, you know, whoever.
Not Travis.
You feel me? Yeah, definitely not Travis. You know what I mean? But nah, we ain't hate on my boy Travis. But nah, that's gang. That's family.
Yeah, that's fair.
But,
That's fair.
you know what I'm saying? But yeah, you know, like you wouldn't be able to appreciate unconditional love if you didn't first know what it felt like to have a relationship with somebody where you had to meet the terms and conditions for them to say, I love you, you know, I like you, I appreciate you, you're a king, you know, you look good today, you know, like you are loved, you know, you are accepted, you are free.
Mm-hmm.
They make you feel like that, right? Only in certain conditions, only in certain times. They only giving you attention when you're at the bar and y'all drunk together, when you're out partying, right? But when it comes to those, you know, individual moments where it's required, you know, for you to, or it's not required necessarily, but when it comes to those individual small moments, you know, like that calm Saturday afternoon where, you know, like you're just chilling. Do you feel like you're loved? Do you know that? Do you exist in that state? You know, like it isn't always like that. It has conditions. When those things are not in alignment, right? When there's no order, there's no love.
Yeah.
But what happens, right? God puts us through things and situations that lead us to eventually. Now, since you went without, you know how to go within. Because as above, so below.
Exactly.
It's beautiful. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
That's facts. You know,
Mm-hmm.
just like conditional love. When I think of conditional love, I think of, you know, boundaries. You know, having healthy boundaries. Also,
100%.
you know, like because of course we're all unconditional love, but that, like you were saying, you can't just give everybody unconditional love. You know, there are people who will take advantage of that. You know, absolutely. And if you want to, you know, keep yourself in that vibration of unconditional love, that automatically means that you can't share it with everyone, even though you may want to, even though you may try to. It's not saying don't try to. It's just saying be sure that, you know, be aware of the energy that you're getting in return. If you're giving out that
Yes.
unconditional love, is it coming back to you? And if it's not, then, you know, you're gonna have to just move on, let that person be on their journey and continue on your journey, because, you know, obviously they still have more work to do. And, you know, you've been there, so like, you know, you understand. So yeah, definitely, I
Yeah,
agree 100%.
just to build off of what both of you are saying, like I think of it sort of like a house, and like you have a fence around your house. Say you got an acre and you got a fence around your acre, but you got like this little puppy dog who just came out of the womb, you know, but they want to run around in the yard, right?
Mm-hmm.
The puppy dog doesn't know if it runs into the street and there's a car coming to get out the street. So if the puppy is surrounded by a gate, it's not going to understand why it's surrounded by a gate. But the thing is, that gate would be that boundary, that order. But the
Mm-hmm.
dog is loved because it has an entire house. It has food, it has shelter, it's warm when it's cold outside. This is the thing. Imagine our life like we are that dog, right? The order is already set and structured around us. The house is truth, foundational truth. What is foundational truth? Unconditional love. You know, and so we can run to our house anytime we really need to, but realize that there's a boundary, and that if you step in the street, it can get dangerous.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's when you realize that you have that order to that chaos, because obviously it's chaos at the house sometimes. That's okay. But that's ordered chaos.
Mm.
You know what I mean? But outside, when you get across that picket fence, that's unordered chaos. And this is
Yes.
the thing, like, if the universe is already structured before we even got here, that means the structure, it was already structured to a point where there is a fence. There's a fence on what we need to do. Like, and they have this thing. I'm in law school right now, but they have this thing. It's called sphere sovereignty, which basically means we all have a sphere of influence, and our influence can only reach but so far. And then the next person who is next to you also has a sphere of influence. Each person has their own sphere. But when we learn to master our cipher, our actual sphere, then we realize what we're supposed to do in this life. Right? So that sphere is like a circle, but the circle fits in the square of the boundary. You know what I mean?
Precisely. Right. And even, that was one of the most powerful concepts, like we can really build on. And I really want to add quick before passing it back to you. When you think about the circle inside of the square, understand the degrees and proportions that exist within both shapes, right?
Exactly.
And also understand that the sphere exists 3-dimensionally, and the sphere also exists 5, 6, and 7-dimensionally, right? Like when you talk about hyperspace, hypergeometry, right? Platonic solids, practically applied. When you think about these shapes and these energy fields and how they manifest, right? The hypersphere has circumference and diameter.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And radius as well. And we think, and I interpret that, right, like as that 360-degree sphere, right, manifested on all these different dimensions and planes. Within that, there's the 180. There's the 120, right? If we divide it into 3, right? Mind, body, spirit. And we divide that into, how that physically manifests, right? Man, woman, and child. Within that, right, you think the sphere is the only world you're in. Right? That's your 120. That's your 180, right? And then ultimately you reach a degree of awareness where it's like, boom, that's your 360. And you think that's all there is, right? And that's how we exist in this third dimension here on Earth as a collective. We exist within the state of vibration that all that we see in our overall sphere, right? The sphere outside of the sphere, right? Multiple standard deviations. When we think about that, we think this is all that there is. And like Wesley said, you're not even realizing that it's a circle inside of a square. It's a plane inside of a net. You know what I mean? It's not a planet. And there are infinite planes and infinite space.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is why our ancestors said the world was flat, but they didn't get it. They didn't understand when they originally said that. They didn't understand that what they mean by that is that it's a circle inside of a square. It's a sphere inside of a tesseract. That's the answer. They don't know that, right? And that's what they're talking about in the Marvel movies. They're giving you literally your own science. You're not even looking at it. You didn't pay attention. Why did Loki want the tesseract? So he could have access to that infinite power. And who was the first person to come after Loki in the end game? No, actually in Infinity War, right? Thanos. Opening scene. He literally kills Loki for the Tesseract. Why was that the first stone that Thanos wanted? That is what would give him access to the Mind Stone. You know what I mean? And that's what would give him access to knowledge that the universe is mental, right? And that everybody has their spheres. These spheres exist within a hypersphere. The hypersphere exists within a tesseract, and the tesseract exists with what is known as a tetrahedron. There's multiple shapes to this. It keeps going up, right? Then it goes to the octahedron. Then it goes to the icosahedron, the dodecahedron, right? And that's the overall universe and the overall shape. But we're so caught up in our sphere of influence, we can't see outside of the shapes.
Exactly.
And that's why our vibration isn't high enough to even receive all of God's knowledge. And that's okay, because every single day you're building towards that, right? But relating all of this back to each other, unconditional love and light is the process through which the dimensions of unconditional love manifest through us. And we build with that energy. And that's what makes us builders. You know, that's what makes us people that do as the Bible and the Quran say and manifest heaven on earth. Do in earth as it is in heaven, as above, so below. This is the literal geometry behind that, you know, and you have to be aware of that. The same way that the dog exists within the fence and that everything.
Hello?
Oh man,
I think we lost him.
you got out.
Hello, can you hear us? Oh man, it was getting good, man. Good.
Hopefully he
okay.
could. Hopefully he could come back in.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to touch on one thing real quick with the circle and the square analogy that we're going with. You know, the circle and the square also creates phi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bringing it back to, if I don't know if anybody here has watched Spirit Science, but you should definitely go and watch Spirit Science if you haven't. And when he's talking about the circle and the square, you know, it's I forget where it's from, Chinese or something, but like every time the circle and the square create like an exact proportion, it creates a phi ratio, which creates life, you know. So that's why it's so powerful to see that circle and that square as, you know, generators of life. You know, when he was talking about the tesseract, I was like, oh yeah, exactly. With the sphere inside of the tesseract, like, yo, that's real. That's real, you know? Like, whew, man, I'm sorry that he dropped off.
Yeah, he was speaking that, he was dropping that knowledge. But we definitely gonna see if we can get him. Oh wait, he's coming back. Hold up.
We gotta be out of here soon though.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys waiting for me. Yeah, my phone had just died.
Oh, it's all good.
It's all good.
It's all good.
For me, a little embarrassing, but it's all good. But back to what I was saying, you know,
Yeah.
Ultimately, as it relates to the universe that we're talking about and the shapes that we experience and the life that we experience in unconditional love, it goes so high up that if you're ever existing from a space of consciousness where you feel like there's nothing left for you to experience or grow, you're limiting yourself. Like you're creating the suffering, as Adam said. You know, and that's how that manifests as space and time, unconditional love. It goes all the way up to the dodecahedron. That's how big it is. That's how big the universe is, you know. But in order to receive the universe, you have to vibrate at a symmetrical level. You know, if it's not symmetrical, it won't take shape. That's the golden ratio. You know, so I'm gonna pass it back to Wesley. You know, but that was just something.
Oh man. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man. I felt that.
Right, so thank you for coming through today, bro. We definitely gotta have you on the podcast again, because like we could keep going on for hours, but we gotta wrap it up.
You know, for sure.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming. We gotta wrap it up. So do you guys have any final words that you'd like to say before we close out?
Yeah, just bringing it full circle to being the order and the chaos. If you don't get anything else from this, just understand that, you're already the order and the chaos. You just have to accept it. You just have to believe that. There's so much power in belief.
Yeah.
If you believe that you are one thing, then you are one thing. If you believe that you're multidimensional, then you are multidimensional. Because um, like one of my favorite influencers, Prince Donnell, he said, "This is your world. Everybody else is just living in it." You know. So seeing things from that perspective, you understand that this is your world to create whatever you want. Don't limit yourself based on what other people say about whatever they have to say about you, because that's coming from their perspective, that's coming from their beliefs. But it's about what you believe. What do you believe? What do you want to see manifest? And bring that forth. That's all I gotta say.
You have anything to say as well?
Those powerful closing words.
Mm.
You know, they're in addition to existing in the space of faith and belief. I would say in closing that everything is born back to knowledge, and that everything from knowledge is born. And you exist in a completely different space of energy when you live your life from a state of knowing, as opposed to a state of lacking belief, a state of lacking faith in God, faith in unconditional love, faith in the universe and the overall architect of this universe. When that belief is scarce, your reality is scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
But when that belief is in abundance, your reality is abundant. And your reality is unconditional love. So always, if you take nothing away from this, know belief and know to know. And when you know and believe, then it will manifest fruitfully, unconditional love. True peace reality.
Absolutely.
That's
When you know, you know.
yeah.
Facts.
Oh yeah. All right. Thank y'all so much for coming. And it's gonna be a lit time. I'll see y'all next time.